I want to tell you a crazy story. I mean, a crazy story. You know, you can't make up stories like this. I just had to move a few weeks ago, and it was like, to say that it was a crazy story just doesn't even give it enough. Like, it's unbelievable what we went through. Okay. But the most amazing part is I want to share with you the lesson that I got from the whole thing, because I feel like when you have one of those aha moments that you really got an amazing lesson, you just want to share it because you want to save it somewhere deep down inside. You want to share it and like give other people that like amazing feeling of like, wow, that was amazing. You got that from that story. So here we go. If I could manage to keep this to less than 5 minutes, I don't know, I deserve a medal. Okay, I did not want to move. I was very happy living where I was. I liked my place. I liked our little family, and I loved our neighbors on the block, but what could I say? Our landlord sold the place. I couldn't find it. So I'm not in a position right now to buy my own place. I have to be renting. So we had to look for another place. We found a place a few blocks away. I wanted my kids to be able to go to the same school, have the same friends. And it was definitely a journey finding this place, because I felt like wherever I was trying to rent, I felt like the whole world is just out to get me. Like, oh, you won't pay your rent because you're a single mom, so you need to give us a much larger... Do you know somebody actually said to me that they need to give them 6 months down in cash as a deposit because I might not pay my bills because I'm a single mom? I mean, is that ridiculous? Like, seriously. So finding a place was definitely a job. And then there was a whole mix-up between the realtor and my landlord, and it turns out we had to move a month earlier than we thought we had to. So it was a little bit, the packing was very pushed into a few days. And the biggest thing I felt pressure was to find movers. So we had one of these, circulars that comes to the neighborhood, and I found this ad on the front page in big letters, very professional ad. And I called them up, and they sounded professional, and they gave me 3 references that I asked for, and the references were all said they were great. So, and they said, yeah, they'll be over within the week to come and check out the place. And a few days before the move, I realized all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my gosh, they never came. Like, what happened? So Sunday morning comes when we're starting our move, and guess what? They come with this little truck. Like, this is not professional. What's with this little truck? They're going to have to take like 2 or 3 trips to get all of our stuff there. The main guy, Michael, he had this very heavy accent. It was very hard to hear him. And the other 5 guys didn't even speak any language that I speak at all. So I'm like, great, right off the boat. But that's okay. Doesn't mean that they can't be good movers. So anyway, Michael walks through the house, and he sees the whole place and everything, and he says, oh, you have a whole bunch of other things that you never told me that you have. And I'm like, what do you mean? I told you everything, and we discussed everything. He said, no, you have 5 or 6 extra, those like IKEA put together like big like closet storage things that you didn't tell me about. I'm gonna have to take these apart and put them back together. It's much more work. It's gonna cost much more money. I'm like, oh great, here we go. Someone else who wants to take advantage of me. I already had my backup. There's somebody else here that wants to take advantage of me, and I was just like, you know what? If you don't want to do the move for the agreed upon amount, then you can go. That's fine. You can leave. I'm not having someone else take advantage of me. So we didn't start the day off right. We definitely didn't start the day off right. We ended up screaming, or he was screaming actually, for like 20 minutes at me, telling me I'm dishonest, and I'm like, it's so annoying, the whole start to the day. In the end, we decided that we'll discuss it later, and he's just going to start the move. So he started the move, and they started off really fast, actually. But then, after a while, I can't begin to tell you that it was getting so slow. His guys are like sitting there on their phone. They're looking at their phone. He's like trying to get them to get up and do something. They made one trip to the new place, and then they were back, still taking apart the old place, and it was getting late. And by 8:30 at night, I'm like, this is ridiculous. We're not going to have beds tonight. So I managed to call friends and neighbors and divvied up all my kids and my mother to come to help. And we divvied everybody up, and everyone found places to sleep. And I was still helping with the move, making sure everything goes in the right rooms in the new place. And meanwhile, they had emptied everything from the old house onto the lawn in front of the old house. But when they went to pack it up for the second time, the truck, it didn't all fit. So they took the truck over to the new house, and nobody was watching all of her stuff. It was sitting on the lawn at the old house. I'm like, that's strange. Who does that? What kind of movers do that? So now we're at the new place, and he's, unpacking, and all the movers are bringing the stuff in. Nothing's put together yet. Things are sort of all over the place. And Michael says, quick. So he calls me across the street, and we're standing there in the street, and he's telling me that, I'm going to send a bunch of my workers. They've done a very good job. They were working all day. And I'm like thinking to myself, 14 hours and not even half the job is done. And my stuff is all sitting in the middle of the lawn in the other place. Whatever, weird. So he says, they've done a good job, and I need to pay them and send them home now. So I want you to give me, the full $5,000 now, so I can pay them, and I can send them on their way. And I'm like, $5,000 now? You haven't even done half the job. I'm not going to pay you. What are you talking about? You have to do the job. At first I thought he said 500, so I gave him 500. He's like, no, 5,000. I'm like, I'm not going to pay you the whole amount until you've done your job. So he says to me, okay, fine. First he screamed at me for a while. Then he said, fine, I'm leaving. So he goes, and my still half my stuff is on his truck, right? So he closes up the truck. He tells the workers that he's leaving, and he turns on the truck. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. All my stuff is on his truck. He's going to run away with it. That's really not good. So I called one of my next door neighbor from my old house, and I'm like, what do I do? She's like, stall him. So I'm like talking him up and stalling him, and I'm trying to understand what he's saying in his accent, and I'm trying to stall him. Meanwhile, my old next door neighbor goes running outside, and she goes and knocks on a whole bunch of doors. This is after 11 o'clock at night. By now I think it was like 11:15 or something. She knocks on all these doors, and she gets all of our old neighbors to come and get in the car and drive over to my new apartment so that they can rescue me. So they all come running over. I see the men walking down the street, and I'm like, oh, yeah, my crowd's arrived. So they come along, and they surround the truck. Both the men and the women, they all surround the truck. They won't let him move. And so he comes out, and he starts having this screaming fight with some of the men, and they're all screaming at each other. Meanwhile, all the neighbors are starting to, my new neighbors in my new block are all looking out the windows and looking out the doors, and some of them are coming outside, and there's an apartment complex nearby with a whole bunch of balconies, and everyone's looking out the balcony. What's going on over here? They're screaming, and the guy, all he wants to do, Michael, is tell the whole story. In the morning, he arrived, and I had more IKEA cabinets than we'd agreed upon. And I'm like, that's not the point right now. The point right now is that I'm not paying you a full amount for the move without you're doing the job. And he just needed to tell his story. Whoever came by had to tell the story over and over and over. And we could see that there was something a little bit, something missing. The guy was not 100% there. But he just kept saying his point. And at some point, he just jumped into the truck that he's going to leave. And one of my friends went and stood by the door. She wouldn't let him close the door. So he pulled the door and slammed it on her, gave her a whole bruise and a whole scratch on her arm. And at that point, when people saw he was getting physical, everyone started screaming, call the police! Call the police! So I think the police must have gotten 50 phone calls, because over the next week, everyone I ran into in the whole neighborhood had told me that they were the ones who called the police. So the police arrived in droves. There was I think 6 police cars and an ambulance. And they just surrounded, they confiscated the guy's truck. They heard his story, they heard my story, each of us separately. They heard all the neighbors' story. And the guy still was telling his story, how when he arrived in the morning, there were more IKEA cabinets than we had told him about. And that's all he could just say over and over. Now, after 45 minutes of this, the police were really tired of this guy. And they were just let's just take him in. So we ended up going down to the police station to file a whole report. And we spent the rest of the night at the police station. So I ended up getting, I think, 2 hours sleep that night. And the whole thing was just beyond ridiculous. We had to go back the next morning. And one of my neighbor's husbands was a lawyer. So we went in and, it was a very long process, the whole thing. In the end, we made some kind of contract. I paid him a little bit more money, but not the full 5,000, obviously. And he actually arrived the next night, and we'd all thought that he was just going to take off with the money and leave. But he actually arrived Monday night to start the job again. Monday night, not Monday afternoon, not Monday morning. Obviously, we're still at the police station, but he came back Monday night, which obviously meant another night that we did not have beds. So he actually finished the job Tuesday night. So from Sunday morning to Tuesday night, it took us to move over about 3 blocks. And it was a crazy story. Now, this is the best part. I really sat down and I said to myself, why did this happen? What did I learn from this? What was the point? And even more than that, what was my part? Because I feel like so often we have problems with other people and we're so quick to condemn the other person and so quick to see that they're wrong, and everyone felt like he was wrong. The police thought he was wrong. My neighbors thought he was wrong. My new neighbors, my old neighbors, everybody. They were like, the guy's crazy. Nobody asks this. What's he thinking? But we're not so quick to run and look at ourselves and say, but what's my part? What did I do here? How did I make this whole thing happen? So that's what I did. I sat down and I had one of these amazing, light bulb, aha moments, that I realized that when he called me over and he said, come here. I want you to pay me full $5,000 right now. I didn't say to him, wow, that's really noble of you to want to pay your workers on time. I appreciate that. I didn't say, I understand that that's how you feel, but I don't feel comfortable with that. I don't know you. How can we work this out that you're happy and I'm happy? I said to him, what? I didn't say, are you crazy? I said, you want me to pay you the full $5,000 now? I made it sound like I was implying that he was crazy. Who does things like that, And so therefore he got his back up. And he needed to prove that he was right. Not only that, but in the morning, I sort of did the same thing. I came off a couple of months of feeling everybody was out to get me and everyone's trying to take advantage of me. And I felt like he was trying to do the same thing. So I came across in a way of saying, fine, you don't want to keep to the price that you said? I don't need you. You can leave. And again, I made him feel like he's crazy. Why, what's he doing? He's trying to take advantage of me. If I would have approached the whole thing, that I hear that we had a misunderstanding. I hear that this is how you feel and this is how I feel. How can we work this out that you're happy and I'm happy? That maybe we can compromise. How can we work this out? If I was kind to him, if I believed in him, if I said nice things with a nice tone of voice, I think the entire move would have come out very, very differently. And I feel like this is such a big lesson for myself, for life, that when you talk to people, you have to be very quick, not very quick to condemn, very quick to compliment, to appreciate, to understand them, even if they're totally in the wrong, even if they're missing a screw or they're a little bit off, to make them feel validated, to make them feel heard, that, I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, I appreciate that. But I don't feel comfortable. And how can we work this out? I feel like this was the whole move, even as crazy it was. Aside from learning that I had a lot of good friends to back me, I feel like that was a huge lesson that I learned, and the whole thing was totally worth it.